Hello and welcome. So you're here today because you're curious about human design. You've got a reading coming up. You've never heard of human design before, or you're looking for a different perspective. It's a system that has soul because the way that human design looks at each individual, it looks at each individual as a complete, unique, energetic being who is fundamentally necessary for the evolution of humanity. The system of human design reveals your unique energetic frequency and how you move with the quantum field and connect to all of the possibility that is available for you. It's a very empowering system. Human design is a synthesis of Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Tree of Life from the Kabbalist tradition, the Hindu or Brahmin chakra system, and quantum physics. When you run your human design body graph on one of the online tools that you can access, you're going to get something that looks like this. This is a image representation of your unique energy blueprint. The three main parts of a human design body graph are the centers, the channels, and the gates. The centers are the ones that are associated with the chakras. The channels are the white lines that bridge the different centers together. And the gates you'll see are the numbers associated in each center. In other videos, I will go into the different types and how they work and the different descriptions around the centers and perhaps the channels. But right now, let's talk about these gates. These 64 gates, which it draws on from the I Ching, which has a direct relationship to the 64 codons within our DNA. And it looks at these 64 gates in our DNA codons as these archetypal energies or energetic imprints that can be used to help us to integrate trauma and pain and then elevate our experience here on planet Earth and program our body and our mind and our nervous system the way that we are meant to exist as human beings, which is completely in flow and in ease with the universe and the quantum field. So let's talk a little bit about the history of human design. Where did it come from? Where did this system, how did it create itself from all of these different ancient systems? So this system was received by a man named Ra Uru Hu in 1987, and he was in Ibiza and received a many-day download of this information, which he then spent the rest of his life teaching to the world and spreading this absolute powerful information to the world. Ra Uru Hu said that the world is living in this homogeneous state. We are taught how to be the same, to have those check boxes that are created in life that we are conditioned and told that we need to have in order to be successful or to be a contributing member of society. And this is very homogeneous, where everyone is the same. And what happens in a system, a global system, country system, community system, educational system, what happens when everyone is the same is that it really dilutes all of the wisdom that is here to be contributed to and shared with the world. So Ra called this system a system of differentiation, which differentiation just means learning how to fully be yourself while still in relationship with other human beings where you feel lit up and supported to be fully you. And in return, you're doing the same for other people. So, what can human design do for you? Human design, it gives you a map. So, when you put in your birthday, you receive what's called a body graph. And this body graph is seen as a map of how you are here to energetically express yourself in the world. It also will show you how you may be conditioned away from your authentic expression of self. It will show you how you best learn. It will show you your relationship style, your how you best make decisions for yourself. So it's like an inner guidance system. And what you need in this lifetime to feel fulfilled and on purpose. The way I look at human design and how I've seen it come across with a lot of my clients is that it's simply a permission slip. Because the truth is, most of us know deep down in our core who we truly are. It's just that the world doesn't teach us that we can be ourselves. Human design is here to help us to create change in our lives from a place of acceptance and flow. So if we want to change something, it's first about creating this deep level of self-compassion and acceptance for who we are, instead of this way of non-acceptance where we don't like ourselves and we want to change, and then we do this change through force. It doesn't work as well that way, and it leads us to feeling very exhausted. It's really a system that tells us what role we're here to play in this great world stage that we're on. And above all, it is an experiment. It is an incredibly complex system with a lot of information. And while there is a lot of different information out there from the original texts from Ra, the original videos from Ra, recordings from Ra, people teaching from their perspectives, it's at the end of the day all about you. It's at the end of the day your experiment to take this information and then practice it, try it. What works for you and what doesn't? This is incredibly important because it's all about coming back to our unique strategy and authority, and no other human being is going to know what's best for you. So let's talk about conditioning for a minute. Conditioning is a term that's used in human design that dictates the way in which we think and act that is a contrast to how we are designed to live in the world. And we become conditioned really from the moment we're born. This is just part of our lot in life as human beings at this time on the planet. We become conditioned through our parents, through our peers, through school, through our own painful or traumatic experiences, through ancestral beliefs and epigenetics. And what this conditioning does is that it creates predictable neurological pathways that fire automatically to protect us from who we really are, because it wasn't okay or we were conditioned to be different from who we are. And this conditioning, it's not about blaming the world, our parents, our society. This is really about seeing that this is where we are on our evolutionary path as human beings right now. We are being called to come back to the authentic, truth, body and soul-based energy of who we are, so that we can support the evolution of ourselves, our families, and the planet. And the reason why we want to come back to our authentic selves is that when we're conditioned and when we're living a life that is off the chart, it's often known as, right, different from what is shown in our body graph, that takes up a tremendous amount of energy and can then lead to stress, anxiety, depression, general unhappiness, and this forcing of creating a life that we want. It's like it's not full of ease, which is how we're designed to live, is with ease. So let's talk about the power of language. Our minds are programmed through our language. How we speak to ourselves, how others speak to us, what types of books we read, what types of music we listen to, what we heard when we were in utero, what we heard when we were children. And that also really impacts how we then continue to talk to ourselves now as adults. We all have this internal dialogue that moves through us at all times. And typically, the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that that internal dialogue goes around and around, has mostly been hardwired into us by the time we are 7 years old. And so, how we talk, the language that we use, there's been lots of studies done now on how that impacts the structure of water, plants, animals, as well as our own physical and energetic bodies. And so this means that language is incredibly important as you begin your own journey with human design, as you begin your own deconditioning process. Language is important and how you talk to yourself. So one of the things you're going to notice is that I sometimes go back and forth between two different types of languaging when I talk about human design. Sometimes I use what's known as the traditional human design language, and sometimes I use what's known as quantum human design language. And so I'm just going to give you a little breakdown right now as to why I do that. And I'm just going to encourage you to do what feels right for you, right? Use the language that feels right for you. So the story goes is that Ra said that the traditional human design language was here to jolt people out of the not self. And the not self is the conditioned self where we're living away from our true authenticity. And it was here to wake people up so that they began to question how life was for them. Was it really working? Were they being authentically themselves? And this is because during that time in the 90s, the early 2000s, it's kind of started changing. The idea of spiritual evolution, of quantum physics was very low on the knowledge spectrum in the general population. And so Ra found that this language, it was given to him in this way, and this language really helped people kind of go, whoa, I need to change something for myself. So the traditional language, I personally find sometimes can feel a little harsh. And at the same time, it describes very well the different aspects of the chart, especially the not self aspects of the chart, which is brilliant. So what's happened in the last 20 years or so, there have been more people that have awakened to this possibility of creating our own experience, of living a life that is beyond the conditioned self. And so this brings us to quantum human design language. So Karen Curry Parker developed the quantum human design language, and she was a student and personally knew Ra and worked for him for a time. And she shares that Ra wanted to change the language of human design to meet the higher states of consciousness that were coming into the world in the early 2000s. But unfortunately, he died before he could do that. So Karen Curry Parker felt the calling to begin this process. And the idea between this quantum human design language is that it's here to be more uplifting and more empowering of our human journey and story. Because we now know that our words create how we talk to ourselves and how we describe our journey and tell our own unique story is incredibly important to our personal and world evolution. So you're going to hear me use both of these languages interchangeably. And I just again support you to find what works for you, take what works, leave the rest. I invite you to look at this human design journey that you're on as permission slip. You get to now go and explore who you are. And also remember, it's an experiment, right? So what your chart might say, what some people might say is the truth of what your chart is, if it doesn't resonate with you, this is all about finding what resonates for you. This is all about you going out and experimenting and seeing what works for you. This is a system that is designed to empower you to be your true and authentic self.